It's really all up to you to acknowledge that they're gone, that they're not going to come back anymore. And it's time to close that chapter. And only then can you truly move on. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Mumbling Thoughts. You guys are probably going to be like, Wes, again? Seriously? Again, you're going to talk about this? Yes, I'm going to talk about this again because it keeps bothering me. It keeps coming back. So here I am. Because it's funny how during the situationship we were talking literally about how situationships were harder to get over actual relationships because of the what ifs. And now I'm still thinking about those what ifs. So without further ado, let's get into it. I've always found myself thinking about her from time to time. And it's normal. It's normal for you to think about someone you liked, someone you were in a relationship with after it's over. But I feel like since it was still a talking stage, since it was a situationship, I didn't treat it as a relationship, which was why it was harder for me to get over it because it was labeled differently. You know, the situationship or talking stage wasn't clearly defined. So I feel like that's why I'm constantly thinking about her all the time. And every time I do, I would check her Instagram. I would just fucking stalk her basically. Um, and I would reminisce about what we had. And sometimes I even think about texting her. And I know you guys are gonna call me a fucking clown. Maybe you guys are in the same spot and you guys know you're a clown if you text them after it ended. I already know. I already know. My friends, they're gonna be like, bro, Wes, you're such a clown. Why are you doing this to yourself? And I'm telling you right now, you shouldn't do it. But sometimes we just can't help it. Initially, it was out of regret. Out of regret for ending it how I ended it. Then it was out of missing what we once had. And I wanted to bring that back. This happiness that I felt when I was talking to her. You know, I missed it. But I asked myself, what would happen if I texted her? One, she doesn't respond, and I feel shitty about myself. And two, maybe she does respond, but what would she say? Would she give me the closure I want? Or would it just be something completely different? Something I wasn't expecting, and I'd just be left in denial. And this is the problem with closure, and it's that you can't force it out of them. They're not really gonna tell you because of many different reasons. One, maybe they're tired of explaining to you how they feel because they feel like they don't owe you an explanation. And maybe they don't, but maybe they do. But you can't force it out of them. And there are those times where they will give you the closure, but even with that closure, it's still hard to take it all in, and you still feel like shit. But maybe you're thinking, Wes, if they tell me at least I hear it coming out of their mouths from them. And I won't be left guessing or wondering. And you're right. But then the thing is, they don't owe you this closure, especially if they were the reasons that it ended, if they ended it with you. But for me, I fucked up. So that closure ain't coming ever, anytime soon, ever. And then there's a number 3. That maybe things are a little okay, and she's okay being friends or talking again. But would it still be the same? After all that happened, you guys can't forget what happened between you two. You might try to bring it back. Bring back that connection, that bond that you two had. But what's happened already happened. You can't take back what's done, what's said. And because of that, it's not gonna be the same ever again. And maybe that's okay. Maybe there's still a connection between you two. There's still a fire waiting to be reignited. Maybe. But if there isn't, then what I realized is there's no point in texting her. And this is exactly what I learned from my ex. I broke no contact after like a long ass time because I thought maybe we could be close friends again. But things just weren't going to go back to normal. It's been too long. And we've changed, we've grown apart. We found other people to be friends with, to hang out with, to talk with. We've changed. Times changed. Everything. And because of that, I learned that it's not going to be the same. And there's no point in reaching out unless you're okay with that. Be my guest and go for it. You can prove me I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of the times it doesn't work out because it ended for a reason, either because of you or because of her, or maybe it was none of you. But now that it's happened, it's really hard to bring back what once was. So I told myself, Wes, there's no point in texting her or reaching out. It's just a lose-lose, you know? There's nothing to really gain from it. And after I realized that, it was a lot easier when I thought of her again. I told myself, there's no point in texting her and reaching out again. And now, after I think of her, I'm just like, yeah, that happened. That was a great memory. But now the question is, what do I do when I think of her then? Because, yeah, the question of texting her and being a clown is solved. But what do I do with these emotions that I still feel? This regret, this longing when I think about her. And that's when I realized another thing. And it's that there's no clear break in a situationship when things end. At least in my case. And if that happens to you, you know what I'm talking about. And it's that there wasn't a clear label, you guys weren't in a relationship, it wasn't defined. And the way it ended without a real explanation or reason. Maybe you know it, maybe they know it, but there was a miscommunication somewhere between you two. And that was what happened with us. It kind of just died all of a sudden. And that's when it's the most confusing. That's when it hurts the most. Because it was a situationship without any clear definition, you're just left wondering, what if? What if we could have made it work out? What if we kept whatever we had? What if? What if? What if I did this differently? You know, you're just left in this loop and you just feel so bad without any closure. And so I realized that without any closure, you have to decide to let go. And I know it's hard because you love this person or you had feelings for them. They made you feel whole. They were your everything, and you couldn't possibly let go of them. And this was me. I couldn't let go of the idea of her. But I had to acknowledge that she was gone, that there was no connection between us anymore. And it's hard to admit that. It sucks because you're choosing to let go of this person that you once loved or had feelings for, or felt that they could have been your everything. It sucks. But unless you choose to close that chapter, you're never going to move on. And there's no real easy way to do it because your emotions take over. But over time, you're gonna feel tired. You're gonna say, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to feel this pain. I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be stuck in the past anymore. And you want to move forward. I wanted to move on. I wanted to close that chapter of my life and move on. I wanted to move on to something else, something I wouldn't say more, I wouldn't say better, because I don't really believe in a better person or someone who can offer more. They would just be different. And that's okay. You know, it's okay to find someone else. You might think that you'll never find someone like him or her ever again. And the thing is, you won't. That's the beauty of it. You're never going to find the same person again twice. You're only going to find someone different. And why is that a good thing? It's good because you can look back and see what was good about them. And then you can bring that to someone else. But they're gonna be different. Maybe they'll have other qualities that you love. That's just love, you know? It teaches you what kind of person you're drawn to, what brings you happiness, and you'll find it in someone else. It's like cars. You drive one car, and maybe you liked some part of it, and you didn't like others. But it's familiar, and that's why you're attached to it. But when it breaks down and it's time to find a new car, you might not want to find a new car. You might want to fix this car that you've had because you've grown so attached to it. But the thing is, there's gonna be other cars. And maybe they have the features of your current one. But maybe there's some better upgrades. I don't know. But that's how you learn, you know? I don't know if this analogy is making sense. I'm trying to sound like Shakespeare, as always, but I don't know if it works out. But that's just how love is, you know? And maybe you're gonna say, I wanna make it work with this person. I wanted to make it work with all my other exes or with her, you know? But that's just not realistic sometimes. And that's okay. So it's really all up to you to acknowledge that they're gone, that they're not going to come back anymore. And it's time to close that chapter. And only then can you truly move on. But moving on doesn't mean forgetting about them or hating them. For me, I'm fond of those memories because she showed me what happiness is. She showed me happiness. And when I was with her, it was probably one of the most happiest I've ever been. And I'm grateful for that. That she's shown me a different side of me. A side of me that I thought would never come out again after my past breakups. And all I can say is I'm grateful. It's unfortunate, but that's just life. You just learn and become more ready for the next one. And that's all for today's mumbling thought. Thank you for listening. And whatever you're going through, whether it's a breakup, whether it's after a situationship ended, after you got cheated on, you got dumped, whatever. Maybe you got ghosted. It's okay to feel sad. And it's okay to take time. But it's up to you to move on. Because until you acknowledge that they're gone and that they won't come back, you're never gonna move on. You have to close this chapter. And that's all for this week's Mumbling Thought. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.